so it's available for students who are not able to attend. If you registered, we'll send out a recording of that by Monday of next week. So if you haven't, if you weren't on the webinar yesterday, welcome to Meet the Firms Week. We like to call it the largest career fair in the accounting profession, and it's all about students. It's about the students who are on this call, students and recent graduates. If you have joined the event directly and did not build a profile on College Frog, I hope that you will. College Frog is a resource for students to be recruited by top firms around the country, and also you're able to apply to jobs that you find on the site. Our goal with National Meet the Firms Week is to bring career opportunities and career education to you. We want you to be prepared for the next step, and webinars like this awesome webinar we're having today with Deloitte is a major step in providing that kind of great information. So speaking of students, I'd love to hear where everybody's from today. You have a question and answer panel through your GoToWebinar. Let us know who you are, and I'd like to read a few of them off. Texas Christian University, TCU, go Frogs. I went to Baylor. New York City, Savannah State, University of Tennessee, DePaul, MSU, is that Michigan State? Oh, that's Montana State. They're coming in fast, guys. This is great. Austin Community College. I used to live in Austin. University of South Florida in Tampa, BYU, Syracuse, Florida Gulf Coast, Texas A&M Commerce, Texas A&M University, DePaul, Penn State. This is we got people from Central Oklahoma, all over the place. North Dakota, UTD, welcome. University of Texas at Austin, welcome. Bentley College in Waltham, Mass. Thank you guys for signing in. This is fun. It's always great to see where everybody's from. All right, great. Well, now you know how to ask questions and answers. All right, I got to read this one. This is good. University of California, San Diego, but I'm from Seattle. Go Seahawks. I'm with you. Welcome, everybody. We're going to focus today on the transition between your college experience and your working experience, and this is an important topic, and it's a topic that not a lot of school classes cover, and that's why we leave it to the professionals with Deloitte to cover, making a successful transition. We have a team of people from Deloitte who are going to talk through the successful transition and the essential steps, the essential skills required to take your next step, whether it's starting an internship, starting your full-time job. And who better but Deloitte to give us that information. So with that being said, there will be about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation for Q&A. If we're not able to answer your question, I'll point you towards a website where you can hopefully get more questions answered. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Casey Griffin. Casey is an audit partner with Deloitte's Boston office, and Casey's the first of a series of presenters who are going to lead us through this discussion about transitions. So with that said, Casey, thank you for being a part of this today, and take it away.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the opportunity to partner with College Frog in accessing all these students today. Good afternoon and good morning to UC San Diego and others from the West Coast. Thank you all for participating and joining us here in today's webcast. As Jeff said, my name is Casey Griffin. I'm an audit partner in the Boston practice for Deloitte & Touche. I serve clients in primarily the technology, media, and telecom industry sectors, spanning from early growth stage companies to large multinational public companies. What I do for these clients is provide what's known as traditional financial statement audits, as well as audits of their system of internal controls. We're going to talk a little bit more today about what that entails. A little bit more on my background. I'm a graduate of Stonehill College, a small Catholic liberal arts school up here in Boston with an enrollment of about 2,000. I graduated with my accounting degree, spent a few years in industry before realizing that public accounting would present me with a great opportunity to kind of expand my experiences and my exposures to various businesses and business acumen in general. And so I recently celebrated my 15-year anniversary, and I could tell you that it's been a very rewarding 15 years, and I continue to this day to be challenged with great career opportunities and great professional development. I'm joined today by a couple of our audit practitioners, Jack Jones and Megan Goza. I'm going to ask them to each introduce themselves. Jack?
Hi, my name is Jack Jones. I am a fourth year here in our San Francisco audit practice. I didn't hear too many West Coast schools named out, but I myself went to Sonoma State University, which is a school just north of San Francisco. I've been with the firm for just over 3 years now, and I primarily serve financial services clients, focus on brokerages, and also payment companies.
Great.
Hi everyone, this is Megan. I am originally from Louisiana State University, but I am now working out of the Houston office, and I am an audit in charge here in the office. I've been here for 3 years, and I primarily work in oil and gas industry, primarily the exploration and production and midstream portions. But it's very interesting and very rewarding here.
Great. Thanks, Jack and Megan. So we're going to start out with a polling question. If you could all let us know a little bit about yourself, what our participant demographic looks like, what your current education status is, that'd be great.
And I just turned on the poll, so actually, I'm going to launch a poll. It'll pop up. I apologize. There we go. Sorry, we thought we had it, and I kind of messed it up. But now you can actually select your status from one of the choices: freshman or sophomore, junior, senior, master's, or recent grad. All right, we've got about 60% of the people in. I'm going to give them just another 10 seconds or so to log in and record an answer. And the team from Deloitte, you may not be able to see this, so I can actually report what the numbers are saying. Let me see here. All right. So with about 80% in, I can give you a pretty clear picture of who's on the call. This is really great. So 35% are recent grads, 32% are master's students, 14% are seniors, and 11% are juniors, 8% are freshmen and sophomores. So between master's students and recent grads, you're talking about 67% of the entire call. So Casey, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, and it'll switch back to your presentation here.
Great. Thanks,
there you go.
So today we're going to cover a little bit of an agenda here. We're going to talk about the transition, what it means to transition from an academic environment into a business environment. We're going to talk a little bit about that context in a professional services firm, a Big Four firm. And then we're going to hear from Jack and Megan, stories from the field about how they got through that transition. We're going to close before Q&A with hearing from campus recruiting manager as to what it is that we seek in terms of our candidates that we recruit from. So getting into the transition process. The transition can often be difficult. Characterize this based upon stages and how you progress through those stages and regain kind of control and comfort. The first stage is what we categorize as separation. During this phase, you're going to be excited to get started and emotional and also stressed out about a variety of things. You're going to be faced with new challenges, things that are unique, you may not have experienced before. You're going to be forced to make adaptations, recognize perhaps cultural differences, and you're going to have to try to adapt how you behave in that environment and how you kind of overcome those challenges that you're faced with. So hopefully by obtaining and understanding the transition process, it can help reduce some of that stress that you experience, allow you to step back and look at the broader landscape and gain a sense of control as a life in a professional services firm in a quicker time frame. And so the key to that is acknowledging that there's a shift going on. And you got to bear in mind that there's actually two transitions here. One is professional, i.e. becoming a professional services provider, and then it's personal, kind of adjusting your life, your schedule, your routine, what you do in your personal life, and the trade-offs that come with having to have a commitment and working in a professional services environment. That change can be shocking, but the one thing to keep in mind is that it can be overcome if you maintain positive attitude and an open mind. You can embrace the change. The second phase here is what we call temporary disorientation. You're disoriented because you're going through this range of emotions and you're used to being successful in your academic career, and now you're trying to regain your foothold and regain that sense of confidence and competence along the way. So bear in mind that that sense of disorientation is temporary. You're going to shift your perceptions and get comfortable in your new environment. You're going to better understand and appreciate your employer's culture. You're going to start to adapt yourself to that culture and understand what the norms are. Sooner or later, you'll start to gain a sense of competence and confidence, and you'll feel like you belong, and you will feel like you are enabled and empowered to be successful in that environment. Stage 3 is where you make that connection. This is where you start to regain control. You feel like you've gained that increased comfort level. You've been accepting of the changes, and you're now ready to accommodate greater demands upon what you're contributing from a work and a professional environment perspective. And most importantly to all of us, you'll be enabled to seek balance in your life. The things that are important to you outside of the work environment and how to make it all work in harmony so that you feel that you're both successful in executing your job responsibilities, but it's meaningful to you in the context of your life more broadly. Let's try to put some context around that. We'll talk a little bit about what it is to go through that process at a Big Four firm. So we'll just set the stage and talk a little bit about Deloitte. Deloitte is today the largest professional services firm in the world. We are organized through a member firm network globally, and we deploy nearly 200,000 professionals in over 150 countries. Through that member firm network, we provide a broad range of professional services to public and private institutions organized by targeted market sectors such as energy resources or financial services. What you're seeing on screen here is a snapshot of our legal entity organizational structure. In the U.S., we're organized by our functional services such as audit or tax. However, I can tell you that Deloitte is differentiated from the market as being the only major firm to have retained its consulting practice through the implementation of Sarbanes-Oxley regulation. We've also evolved our service offerings to include financial advisory services. These non-audit disciplines are very important and meaningful in helping us to deliver quality audits to the clients we serve. So what is an audit, you might ask? Well, certainly a number of you probably have a sense from what you've studied, or maybe you've interned perhaps. But an audit essentially is us rendering an opinion on an assertion that's being made. The most common example being financial statements. The preparers of those statements are asserting that those financial statements are a fair portrayal of the reporting entity's net assets and results of operations and the like. We typically provide a number of financial statement and internal control audits for public and private clients. Those clients range from global multinational to early stage growth companies, and they span all industry sectors: asset management and banking, consumer products, energy and resources, life sciences and healthcare, technology, media, telecommunications. We cover it all. And so while many audits are recurring and cyclical in nature, the experiences from your participation can vary. For example, you may be involved in conducting a fraud risk assessment with a broad engagement team, understanding how those fraud risks manifest in terms of risks of material misstatements in the financials. and then working with the team to try to plan and execute tests of the related balances and the mitigating controls. In other situations, you may find yourself dealing with a client's significant unusual transaction and performing technical accounting research to understand the requirements and evaluate how that client is reporting for the transaction. Often you find yourself identifying errors or control deficiencies, and you're forced to evaluate the impact of those audit findings on the financial statements and system of internal control. These are all real-life examples of what you can expect to experience in your audit careers in public accounting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the transition process. Anytime you enter an organization, it's important to identify 2 to 3 people that you can trust and confide in. People that may have a few years of additional experience that can help mentor you through the new experiences that you're going through and help kind of ease the stress of figuring out what you need to do when you're assigned a task or an engagement responsibility. So for me, I quickly joined the firm and identified a handful of people that I knew or came to know during my orientation. I developed a rapport with them. I got comfortable that I could ask them questions and not feel embarrassed that I didn't know the answers to them. I leveraged these folks in a mentoring capacity to help me kind of learn the ropes and deal with things that were new to me or I might be going through for the first time. As time passed, I became more exposed to partners and managers in the firm, and I began to develop counseling relationships with leaders of our local practice. These counseling relationships helped me to envision what my longer-term path might be, and then help guide me along the way in successfully navigating my career and progressing my advancement throughout the firm. I also think it's very important to maintain a positive attitude. You've got to bear in mind that you may not like every assignment that you receive, but you've got to look inside of it and understand how you're being exposed and what the experience is offering to you in terms of each takeaway. So I'll share with you a story. During my first year, I was assigned to a large national insurance company. My manager had asked me to return some real estate valuations to the executive wing. My initial reaction was, this seems like a menial task. However, I caught myself and I smiled and went on my way. As I was up on the executive wing, I encountered one of the executives, and I smiled and exchanged a brief greeting. He paused in the hallway and spent probably 10 minutes just chatting with me. Wanted to know my name, what my background was. And through the course of our dialogue, he shared with me that he too had started his career in public accounting, and he offered me his advice, and it's resonated with me ever since. He said, remember, the harder you work in public accounting, the greater your reward. So shortly thereafter, I returned to the audit room, and my manager had asked me what had taken so long. I responded to him that I'd just been taking in some career advice from the CEO. So remember, keep a positive attitude. In that particular instance, it gave me an opportunity to interact with an executive. I made an impression on the person. He opened up to me and gave me some meaningful advice, which has stuck with me to this day. You might ask, what do we expect of our new hires? Well, there's one overriding expectation, and that is to learn. How do you learn? Get engaged. Embrace the opportunities that are presented to you. Own your career and progress your professional development through on-the-job training, networking and mentoring, as well as obtaining your applicable professional certifications. Above all, maintain a positive attitude, because you never know when you may encounter that CEO. Jeff, I think we're going to jump into another polling question here.
We sure are. So
for our participants on the webcast.
All right, we're launching that now. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, for our participants on the webcast, what do you think will be the most difficult aspect of transition? Getting up early, challenges, meeting new people, learning how to do your job well, finding that work-life fit, balance between your professional responsibilities and personal life.
Casey, this is going to be interesting. I would have thought it would be 100% getting up early, but it's not. All right, and we're going to give people about 5 more seconds to we're at 75% of all attendees have answered, and I'm going to actually show you. I think we can show you the results. We can have a comment on those. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this, and I can share the results. So getting up early didn't do so hot, but learning how to do my job well, so job performance was roughly half the audience. Casey, I can close this out when you're ready, but in case you'd like to comment on it, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeff. I think that's great. It's certainly a source of stress, but I think we're going to, after this, we're going to transition over to stories from the field, and I think we'll be able to offer some advice as to how you might allay some of those concerns and be better positioned to overcome that transition. So you've heard a little bit from me. We thought it'd be helpful to hear from Jack and Megan as they're a little bit closer to that transition point. And so we're going to start out with Jack and hear about how he made the transition from campus life to office life.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate that. So a lot of what you talked about already is kind of the root of what I want to speak about as well. Just to offer a little perspective, I interned in the summer of 2009, which was obviously about 6 months after the failure of Lehman Brothers, and the economy and the job market there's a little bit of uncertainty surrounding that. And so for those of us that interned during that time, having any kind of internship or career opportunity ahead of us was very exciting for all of us. And I think that mentality kind of became pervasive for our whole class. And what we became known for as a class is just having a tremendous attitude and a willingness to do whatever was asked of us. And I think that as my career has progressed, that has kind of been the most important thing that I've learned to move forward with, and to understand that any task, as Casey did with the CEO, is important to do with a positive attitude and a willingness to be flexible and kind of and do what is asked of you. The other thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of making the transition is keeping a long-term perspective and having patience. I think that when I started at the firm, I was ready to be a manager or a partner on the second day. I wanted to be important and feel like my opinion was valued, and it is, but in a different light. And I think that the longer you fight the fact that you are kind of at the beginning of your career, the more difficult and frustrating it will be to get kind of adapt and move forward. So I would like to give advice that keeping a long-term perspective and being patient is more important than anything. Next thing I want to highlight is building relationships. I think that those of us who start at the firm and take involvement in the social activities that the firm allows, I myself started with the firm full-time in 2010 during the Giants World Series run here in San Francisco, which was a great time for anyone in the Bay Area. And there was a lot of commotion and a ton of events that the firm put on around that, and I took advantage of all of it. And I look back on that time and I realized that the relationships that I built during that time have been super instrumental in helping me kind of progress in the firm, have relationships with people, mentorships, and kind of enjoying the place that I work at. And I'll forever remember that as kind of the root of that. What I've noticed since is that there is always events like that the firm puts on, and there are a plentiful amount of opportunities for people to get to know each other and kind of progress in their career together and to develop those relationships. So I encourage all of you to really take advantage of that. And moving to the next slide, continuous learning, the 3 E's. I do want to highlight Deloitte University very quickly, just because I think it is such a symbol of our firm's commitment to learning. It's obviously a huge investment to build this massive facility that we have down in Westlake, Texas. It is absolutely remarkable. And I remember hearing the stories about how great it was before I had an opportunity to go there, and not very often do things live up to the hype, and Deloitte University really does. It's a wonderful facility, and it's really a great time to go there and participate in learning with people from across the entire country, to learn their perspectives and to hear about the issues that they deal with on a daily basis. So it's really a great facility for the firm. The other thing I want to highlight is experiences. Most importantly, this bullet that we have, that stretch assignments help you grow. When I was a second year at the firm, I was on an engagement that was less than perfect. It was a very difficult situation that the client was going through. We as an audit team were having difficulty wrapping our heads around stuff that had occurred at the firm and errors that Casey had talked about and evaluating those. While I was on the engagement, I remember being very stressed. The manager was stressed, the senior manager, the partner. We worked day and night together on it, and we ultimately got through it. And when I look back on that experience, I highlight it as one of the most valuable experiences that I've had at the firm. And what I really want to emphasize is that having these difficult experiences that you go through, sometimes the most challenging projects that you get assigned to will be the ones that ultimately have the most benefit to your career. So always keeping an open mind to new engagements, new projects that may otherwise not be ideal in terms of maybe it's a lot of work, maybe it's a lot of stress, but ultimately those are usually the ones that you learn the most from and have the most growth from. Last thing is exposure. I started my career on a large financial services multinational firm, similar to Casey's experience out here in San Francisco. And then this past year, I was asked to go on to kind of a new startup type client that we as an audit firm are still learning our process there. The company is still learning their process and trying to understand what their career, or what, not their career, but their perspective as a firm is going to be going forward. And having the opportunity to go in there and develop that process and build it from the ground up has really been an awesome opportunity to get exposure to new client, to new people in the industry, as well as new managers and senior managers. I had spent much of my career working with the same people, and I think that since having gone on to this new engagement, it's been very fruitful in terms of developing new relationships with people that I otherwise may not have had the opportunity to work with. So I encourage all of you to keep an open mind to new projects and assignments as they come available to you, and to take advantage of them when they do. And moving on to the last thing, the last slide that I'll cover, top 5 things to do as a professional, I really want to highlight number 1. There is nothing that replaces hard work. These days, a lot of the interns and new hires that I've had the opportunity to train and kind of mentor and recruit as they go through the process often think that, you know, getting their CPA exam done, which is important, but and being smart and having creative, innovative ideas is all that's going to be important. And that's all very important, but there is nothing that replaces just good old-fashioned hard work and people willing to put the time in and the effort to accomplish their goals and to serve their engagements and to help their team and be a team player. So I don't want anyone to think that there's anything that will ever replace that. And lastly, the last thing I want to highlight is number 4 on here, which is practicing being a team player. I want to share kind of a funny story that I have that I think has kind of epitomized what my attitude was as a new hire at the firm. When I started in the fall of 2010, I had been at the firm for maybe 3 weeks. I had spent 1 week on my engagement, and one of the first tasks that I was asked to do was make a run to the store to get snacks for the team, which is something that as auditors you will get used to. We all love to snack and have kind of our favorite things that we get. A senior of mine on the engagement really enjoyed red vines. So I went to the store and I got Twizzlers, which I thought were the same as red vines. And in coming back, she joked, of course, and was not serious, but said that they were not the same and wanted red vines instead. So during my lunch break, without being asked, I went and I got red vines and replaced them in the audit room for her to have. And what's funny about that is in looking back on my first year, that gets talked about more than any other assignment that I ever had as kind of epitomizing and symbolizing my attitude as a first year, willing to kind of just do whatever it took to please the team and to be a part of the team. And I think that that has really helped me in my career and kind of just always having that attitude of willing to do whatever it takes. So with sharing those experiences and sharing those kind of highlights of things I think are important, I'll turn it over to Megan for her to go through her slides and share her experiences.
Thanks, Jack. I just want to touch on a few points about how to make your transition into the professional accounting world more seamless than most people try to make it out to be. But just to give you some background, I went to LSU and I came to Houston and I did not know a single person when I came here. So it was very important for me to try to establish who I was and let people know that, hey, I'm here, like, don't overlook me, especially considering the fact that I did not do an internship. So those first few days of training when everybody's in the same room and getting your computers and doing all your little trainings, and everybody seemed to already know everybody else, and I felt like the odd man out. So I said, hey, I'm going to be proactive and start building these relationships. These relationships are very important whenever you start building early on. You should mainly build a network between people because these people will be the same people who are your support system during busy season. They know what you're going through. They know how busy you are. They are there to help you further your career. They help give you a sense of belonging, make you feel comfortable. An important part, for me at least, was finding a mentor, somebody who I could talk to if I was having issues and reach out to on a more like consistent basis than I would with a counselor. So whenever you start at Deloitte, you get a counselor and everybody has it, and they're there to help you direct your career on the path that you want it to go. But I found more of a mentor type person who was my first senior, and we connected, and as I've grown throughout the firm, she has been there to help me when I have questions, or if I don't know how to test something, I'm like, hey, how do I do this? And she's always there to help me, and so I found somebody that I can kind of be their mentor, and it's a good feeling to know that you're helping somebody and that you're building those relationships. But I also want to touch on finding your fit and cultivating your passions. Here at Deloitte, there are multiple industries that you can work on. I came to Houston particularly so I could work in oil and gas, and you may like real estate, or you may be interested in healthcare, maybe telecommunications. My suggestion to you is to find the industry that you're interested in or what really drives your passion, and go for it. Like, find somebody on the team and be like, hey, I'm really interested in oil and gas. Can I like try to work on a client that's oil and gas? And Deloitte is very good about helping you find a client that is in an industry that you are interested in. So that helps you maintain your motivation to work and provide good quality work. Lastly on this slide, I want to point out, don't forget about you. It's very easy during your first year to try to put in 110% and do everything, but theoretically that's awesome, but it's just not possible. You want to make sure that you take that time to do the things that you need to do outside of work and keep your work and your personal and your mental and your physical health in good quality, in good state, so that you can work and perform your best at work. So a lesson learned that I have is regarding your CPA. I know Jack kind of mentioned that it's important, but it is very important for you to try to get it done before you start work. I did not get it done before I started work, and with everything going on during your transition, it just makes it more seamless to be able to say, work was crazy today, but I did not have to come home after work and try to study for CPA. So if you can get that out of the way, it helps facilitate you being able to attend those Giants games or happy hours with your peer group to help further your social building because you're not having to go home and study. So on to the next slide, I want to talk about the top 5 things to do in your year one. One is to set goals. I would possibly identify 3 to 5 areas where you want to grow in your first year here at the firm, but make sure they are realistic. You're very thrown into everything that's new. You're not used to it, so you're going to have a lot going on, so make sure they are realistic goals that you're making. Find a mentor, find somebody, your senior, a coworker, maybe even your counselor can be your close mentor who you go to, somebody that you can trust to help you out and guide you down the right path. Join a group. Deloitte has business resource groups. They're kind of like extracurricular activities. I have joined a couple of these. I joined a kickball team that we meet every Tuesday night and play random other teams, and then we get to go for a happy hour after. Deloitte kind of sponsors the team membership. And then there are also things like join a people committee who helps organize happy hours or things between like partners and seniors, because most of the time like the partner or the manager will come in and as a lower staff, a senior or below or something, you may not have time to talk to those higher ups because they're always busy and people always want their attention. So being able to have that time set aside for partners and seniors or managers in first and second years to meet and group and network, it's really nice to be able to say, hey, I'm here, look at me, I'm Megan. Finally, I would like you to make sure that you establish your boundaries. Find the right balance between work life and your personal life. It requires you to set those boundaries, and those boundaries are easily broken, but you need to make sure that you maintain them because it's very important to keep yourself well balanced so you don't get burned out on certain things. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Casey.
Thank you, Megan and Jack, for sharing those personal stories. They're all great examples of how to immerse yourself into a new culture and experience as a new hire. I think the common denominator above all, if I can impart one message on our participants, is that public accounting is perhaps one of the last apprenticeship professions. We all went through the same transition when we walked through the door. We didn't know what was expected of us and had to learn our way. We didn't know how to do it. We had to have somebody take us under their wing and show us the ropes and help kind of develop us to be successful. So you will be received in the same fashion. At Deloitte, we have an apprenticeship culture. We recognize that in order to continue to be successful as an organization, we need to continue to bring our people along and support them in being successful themselves. So the keys to remember in terms of managing your transition and regaining control are the following. Maintain a positive attitude. Be open to the new experiences. Recognize what they provide you in terms of developmental opportunities. Establish a network of mentors and advisors. Get engaged. Get engaged in community service opportunities, social and professional networking opportunities, and get to know the firm. Understand what it has to offer its clients, how it's organized, how the different functional service areas interact with one another, and expand your network along the way. Above all, learn. That's what we ask of our new hires, learn. Soak it up, take it all in, because it's not going to be too long from now that you're going to actually be mentoring the inbound class. So we thought we would wrap up before we move to Q&A by hearing from Lauren Romano, one of our campus recruiting managers. Lauren is going to help better articulate what it is that we look for in new hire recruits. So Lauren?
Thank you, Casey. My name is Lauren Romano, and as Casey mentioned, I am a manager within our campus recruiting group at Deloitte, specifically working with our leadership as well as our campus recruiting team in the East region on the hiring of top talent for our audit practice. I'm going to spend a couple minutes discussing what Deloitte looks for and our campus hires at both the intern and the full-time level. As Casey mentioned earlier in the presentation, Deloitte has 5 distinct practices from which we serve our clients. And since each practice is a little bit different, the qualifications can vary a bit as well. I'm going to focus, for the sake of time, on some common traits and qualifications and would encourage you to visit our website, careers.deloitte.com, to learn a little bit more about the various opportunities within the firm. As you can see on the slide, we're looking for students with strong academic credentials, majoring mainly in accounting, technology, and finance. I'll note that if you're looking to start a career within audit or tax, we do require that students be CPA eligible at the time of their full-time hire. And the CPA qualifications, as many of you know, vary state to state. So I would encourage you to connect with your state CPA chapter to learn a little bit more about your state-specific requirements. We want you to be well-rounded, and I think this is probably something that you hear a lot about on campus and probably from your mentors and from your parents as well. What does being well-rounded mean? So when we're looking at resumes of students, for us this means being involved on campus in a wide variety of activities, whether that's through accounting-related groups or organizations, community involvement, volunteerism, athletics, or something else that you might just be really passionate about. For some, that's travel. For some, it's hobbies. For some, it's things like skiing or mountain biking. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, pursue that, and definitely be able to articulate that through your resume and through the interview process. I'll note, as mentioned on the slide, that accounting-related groups are valuable for many reasons. They give you exposure to the various careers within public accounting, and they also help you build a network that can be really critical as you go through the recruitment process. From a skill set perspective, we want you to have strong communication skills as well as customer service skills. As all of our panelists have mentioned, we serve clients, and even as an intern, you very well may find yourself interacting virtually or in person with a controller, a CFO, at a client site. And so it's really critical for you to have the communication and client service skills to be able to interact on a professional level. Finally, you'll see on this slide a willingness to travel. And I think the bigger point here is being able to be adaptable. We have clients all over the world and within the U.S. And sometimes client sites are in really glamorous, fun places, and other times you could be asked to fly to the middle of nowhere to conduct something like an inventory. Being able to be adaptable and go where the business need is really important, and it's truly a part of the job. So now that you've heard from our professionals and you've learned a little bit about the qualifications, you may be wondering how to apply for positions at Deloitte. The first step I would encourage you to do is to connect with your career center at your college or university to understand if Deloitte is actively recruiting students on campus. If so, we highly encourage you to attend our events, meet our professionals, and learn a little bit more about the recruitment process from our school recruiters. If you are at a school where Deloitte does not currently recruit on campus, I would suggest going to our website and also leveraging the College Frog website to review available positions. Before we move into Q&A, I wanted to give you all a quick overview of our recruitment process. So right now we're on campus recruiting for summer leadership programs that take place across the country. You can learn a bit more about these programs on our website as well as through your school's career center. These programs are mainly for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors depending on your CPA track. And the main qualification here is that you have to have a long-term interest in a career in professional services. These programs are a really great opportunity to learn more about Deloitte, our culture, and to meet and network with our people. I understand that many of you are either recent graduates or looking for full-time opportunities, and we have been recruiting for those positions since last fall. And so typically in August, positions for full-time hires as well as summer and winter internships are posted on campus as well as via the career site at Deloitte.com and College Frog. So if you are currently actively looking for an opportunity within Deloitte, again, I would encourage you to visit our website, or you can even look on College Frog because our position is in fact posted there as well. With that, we would like to hear from you, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to get us started with a few questions from the audience to wrap up our time with you.
Sounds good, Lauren, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I had a couple of questions and just wanted to make a quick comment. The goal of the presentation today, and the reason why we had this, was to begin a conversation where we could equip students so they would know what firms expect of them. And I think you've heard some really great stories from Casey and from Jack and from Megan about what it takes to succeed in a firm environment. But interestingly, they weren't talking about accounting, were they? What we heard from Jack was about being a team player and going and getting red vines. And I think it's funny, and Casey had a similar story where they were given a task that seemed below them. You know, they seemed like they didn't really want to do it. And to their credit, they did it anyway, because good things happen when you are a team player. You're not going to learn that in intermediate accounting, okay? But when you're in a real-world environment, being a team player and bringing hard work to the table, they're essential. They are essential skills. And Megan, the point you made about being proactive, the relationships you make in your first job out of school are so critical in those internships. These are your professional network, and you have two choices. You can sit behind your desk and not take a risk and not go speak with people, or you can take those risks and build relationships. I'll tell you, you won't last very long if you're not willing to build relationships, because it is also essential. I had a question for Megan, and Megan and Jack and Casey, maybe you guys can unmute your phones, but Megan, you mentioned something that really actually piqued my interest, and you said you wish you had taken the CPA exam before you started your career. Any other, I'd just like you to expand on that. When it would have been a great time for you to have taken your CPA exam?
That's a great question. So I was naive to the fact that you can study, I guess, while you're in school. I was under the impression that you had to have your 150 hours in order to sit for the exam and study. I don't know why I thought like that, but I did. So I did not start studying until I graduated from school with my master's, and that gave me 2 months before my start date to actually take all 4 portions, which realistically is not smart. I did take a few portions, and then I ended up starting at Deloitte, and I was so overwhelmed with being in a new city and then trying to do the best I can at work and then trying to find my own apartment and all of those things that you have to deal with whenever you move in, that the CPA exam kind of took a back burner. And then we hit busy season and you're working 60-hour weeks, maybe more. And so I did not get to pick it back up until April, whenever I had clearly gotten out of the habit of studying and it was just harder to pick up. And so I strongly suggest that you maybe start studying in January before you graduate, or if you sign with Deloitte, we have a great program where you can, Deloitte helps you pay for some of your background materials or something, whatever study materials you would like. If you could just order those and start studying right away, it would really help.
Megan, thank you so much. I think that's a very practical piece of advice, and I hope everybody is paying attention. And Megan, while I've got you, you mentioned finding a mentor, and there's a lot of language around, hey, you just find a mentor, and all your problems will be solved. And you talked about finding a mentor, and I think that it's important to clarify that that for those of you on the call, she's absolutely 100% right. But let me tell you how to find a mentor. Find somebody who's been at your firm longer than you have, and when you're new, that is just about everybody there. And approach them and say, ask them a question. Just ask them a question about a topic that you're having, and approach them on a regular basis. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a formal relationship, but if you are following Megan's advice and reaching out and building relationships, especially with those peers, but also people older and more experienced than you, that is how mentor-type relationships grow. And I imagine that at a large organization like Deloitte, that's a critical piece. Jack, you mentioned about the number one thing that you feel like is a trait is hard work. And what I'd like to ask you is, what does hard work look like? And I don't think I think it's important that you could give an example or just what you mean by when you say hard work. Are we talking about putting in the hours? Are we talking about working weekends? Give us your description of hard work.
I think when I say that, what I mean is just sometimes as a senior, you get staff who they kind of make it obvious, I guess, that they're ready to go home. That they're ready to just kind of sign off and go home and do their thing, and they're not really invested or committed to the team and to the engagement. And sometimes as a leader on the team, that's a little discouraging, and you have to find new ways to motivate those people. But as opposed to that, when you get someone who kind of is always willing to do the extra task and kind of always willing to go the extra distance to get things done and to benefit the team, and they just have that kind of energy, that kind of work ethic, and ready to kind of do whatever is really instrumental in just kind of helping people stand out. It's so obvious when you get someone who's a hard worker and is willing to put the time in. And yes, and it can be a grind. I think that's probably one of the hardest parts about the transition is the grind of just kind of going to work every single day and waking up and being on time and being professional and well-dressed, and all that kind of commitment to excellence, I think, is what really exemplifies hard work and kind of that dedication to the cause, I guess.
Jack, thank you. And anybody else, don't feel obligated, but if anybody was jumping to add on to Jack's comment, please feel free. If not, I'll move on to the next question.
Hey, Jeff, this is Casey. I did want to jump back to the question around passing the CPA exam, because I want to make sure that our participants didn't take away a wrong impression, and that is that there's not an expectation you have passed the exam before you start with the firm. I think Megan's advice is very good advice, because ultimately what will happen is once you start to take on your professional responsibilities with client service and the like, you'll be trying to juggle more balls, and so if you can eliminate one of those balls, it'll make life easier. But more importantly, all of our new hires are supported by the firm in their efforts to pass the exam. We support them by providing them with Becker CPA review materials, and then we also incent them with a financial bonus should they pass the exam.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up. Really appreciate that. Have a few other questions, and Lauren, I'll kind of address these to you, and you can answer or distribute. But many of the questions are from some of our international students on the call, and wondering if Deloitte supports the hiring of international students here in the United States.
Hey there, we sure do. We are open to international students for all of our programs, whether that be the leadership programs, internship, and full-time opportunities. So that should not be an obstacle for any of the international students that are out there. And in fact, once you have accepted a full-time offer with the firm, we give you a contact to liaise with as you go through the immigration process to make that as simple and seamless as possible. I'll just note that there are some practices within the greater Washington area that do require certain levels of clearance, and so for that you do need to be a U.S. citizen, but on the whole we are certainly open to international hires.
Lauren, thank you so much. Had a lot of questions about that. Lauren, next question is, any advice for a successful interview with Deloitte?
Sure, and I will give my thoughts, and then would obviously love to hear Casey's as well, as Casey is one of our interviewers for final round interviews in our Boston office. You know, it sounds sort of cheesy, but practice. The more that you practice the skill and the art of interviewing, the more comfortable you become at actually talking about yourself. It is a very awkward process to actually sit there and talk about yourself with somebody who, you know, is more senior than you are in terms of their tenure in their career. But the more comfortable you get in doing that, the more successful you're going to be in interviews. Beyond the basics of obviously showing up on time, appearing professional, and being prepared, I would say that practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get.
Any other comments?
This is Casey. I would agree with that, Lauren, and I'd offer some common advice, which seems obvious, but do your homework. I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed candidates and they don't know a thing about the firm, and it's just fundamental information that they could find by going to our website. And so when we get to a Q&A session, they start asking questions that they should already know. And my perspective is that there's two sides of the table here. Yes, we're interviewing the candidate for a job position, but you should be interviewing me to determine if, as a prospective employer, it's the right fit for you. So if you've done your diligence, you've come into that session and you're prepared to ask good questions of me that, frankly, might be hard questions. So I'm always impressed by those that have done their homework and treat that session as an opportunity for them to kind of answer their own question about, is Deloitte the right fit for me? And then also, be genuine. We're trying to essentially make it a hiring decision based upon a brief interaction. We often ask questions that are personal in nature about your experiences and challenges that you've faced and overcome, how you've teamed with others, and there are personal details in there, and when you open up and you share the substance of what you struggled with and how you overcame it, it makes it personal, it makes it genuine, and it allows me to get a better read on who you are and what you're made of.
Casey, that's great interview advice, by the way, from both of you, from Lauren and Casey. It is a matter of doing your homework, being prepared, showing your preparation, and establishing contact as a real person. And I think that goes as great advice no matter what industry you're interviewing with. We'll ask one last question and then wrap it up with a couple of points. But I actually saw this a couple of times, Lauren, and it's how easy is it to switch between areas of interest or industries? For example, if Megan was to focus on healthcare clients now, how willing is Deloitte to support auditors in moving around and finding what they really like?
That's a great question, and if any of the panelists have experience in doing this, would love to hear your thoughts. But generally speaking, we want our interns and our new hires to get as much of a holistic experience and to get as much exposure as they can in their first few years with a firm, obviously dependent on business need. So for example, if you were in an office that didn't have oil and gas as an industry or an oil and gas client, it would be difficult to get you that type of exposure. However, when you think, between financial services and commercial clients, we really do want to get you exposure across all of the various industries that we have, so that way you can come back and tell us what you enjoy the most and where ultimately you want to be and where you want to specialize. The second part of that the question that tends to come up is, how do you switch from function to function? In other words, if I do audit for a couple years and decide that I want to go into financial advisory services, how does that process work? And it's actually, I would say that's one of the greatest benefits of working at a firm like Deloitte. We have the 5 various service lines that Casey went through and that I mentioned, and they all offer very, very different things to our clients. The process of moving from one function to the next, again, is dependent on business need, right? So there has to be an opportunity within that other group or that other service line to move over. But for the most part, if you're a very strong performer and you express an interest and you do your due diligence, after a couple years within the practice, I don't want to say it's easy, but it is a feasible process. I think the key to that is, as a few people have mentioned, is building up your network and having mentors and having sponsors within the firm that when you do express that interest and when you have done all your due diligence on that group, those people are willing to go to bat for you and help you make that move.
Yeah, I agree, Lauren, and as an advisor to a number of audit professionals through the years, I've encountered situations where, frankly, some of our highest performers want to switch. They want to go to tax. Maybe they want to go into the M&A practice or the forensic sector of FAS. And while that might feel like a difficult conversation, it's actually more the opposite. We look at our high performers and we want to retain them within the broader organization. To the extent that, as Lauren indicated, there's a business case, there's an open position and an opportunity and need, it's much easier for us to try to plug in a resource that's already part of the broader Deloitte family than to go and hire new from the street. So, I've encountered good success with my advisees in terms of trying to help them accommodate those desired transitions in the past.
Guys, our time here is up, but I feel like we have covered a lot of great ground, and the team from Deloitte, you can't see the notes of thank you coming across from the students, but trust me, and I'll speak on their behalf, thank you for caring about these students enough to take time, especially for some of you who are in the middle of a busy season, to talk about careers with students who may or may not be working for Deloitte in the future. We really appreciate that. Clearly, this is just an outstanding organization with awesome people. And this has been a great time. I sent this out to the audience. If you have any more questions, consult careers.deloitte.com. And I sent this out through the chat panel. It's an important and very thorough website that has information about the careers at Deloitte. And if you happen to be in the Southeast United States, there's a small firm information session in about an hour. I sent that link out that you could learn more about from another firm. That's at join.me/collegefrog. So please be sure to check that out. So Lauren and Megan, Jack, Casey, thank you for putting the work in and for teaching us so much about how to start a successful career. For those of you who want a recording of this, we'll make that available next week. And I think that's it. Any last words, Lauren, before we wrap this thing up?
No, thank you all for participating and for joining us today, and would definitely encourage you to get in touch with your school's Career Center or careers.deloitte.com to learn a little bit more about Deloitte and the programs for which we recruit for.
Lauren, thank you so much. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow for the webinar with our career coach, Yvonne Harris, and make it a great, great week. We'll sign off. Thanks. Bye-bye.